Hi, and welcome to a special edition of the Muscle News and Merlin Bodybuilding Podcast with my partner Eric Broser and our special guest, Rich Gaspari. How are you,
Very
Rich?
special guest, legend.
Legend,
Great to
of
be on the
course.
show.
Legend, Dragon Slayer, and as Lee Haney says, Rich the Itch. What was it that?
Yes, Rich the Itch. Yeah. I mean, I tell you, like I told you, Lee Haney is like family to me.
Yeah, yeah,
If it
yeah,
wasn't for Lee Haney, I may have not even turned pro for the
yeah,
fact. I don't know if you guys know this. I live with Lee Haney.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
and when I trained in California, I was a young, just turned 20 years old, moved to California,
yeah.
and we were in this gym in Gold's Gym Reseda. And even though there was the Gold's Gym in Venice, Gold's Gym Reseda had some of the greatest bodybuilders that trained there. We had, well, I wasn't really famous then,
Yeah.
so you had Bertil Fox, you
Oh
had
wow,
Bertil
Yeah.
Fox
Wow.
trained there. Albert Beckles trained in that gym. Um, who else? Jeff Everson and his wife then trained in that gym. Fred Hatfield trained in that gym. Um, who else trained in that gym? Sting, who was, Steve Borden was his name, but Sting, the wrestler, trained in that
Wow.
gym.
Wow.
Um,
wow, a lot of
there
big
was
names.
what's his name? What's his name? The guy, poor guy who just died.
Hulk.
Um, Hulk Hogan trained in my
Yeah.
gym. He was
Yeah.
there frequently,
Wow.
because it was the Valley and it was near Woodland Hills.
Wow.
So that
Oh
gym
yeah,
had
Hey,
it had the writers,
isn't that
Rick
where Joe
Wayne.
Eater's place was? Wasn't Joe Eater's place in Woodland Hills? Wasn't that where the
His
headquarters?
his place was in Woodland Hills.
Yeah.
So all the guys from Woodland Hills would train there. Rick Wayne trained in that gym.
Oh
wow.
wow.
Like I said, Corey trained in that gym. So when you went to that gym, it was like full of really good pros that trained in that gym. So I worked there as a manager of the gym, and it was funny. When I first moved to California, I was like full of piss and vinegar. I wanted to be seen as the best. And
Yeah.
one of the things, when I was in New Jersey, I was winning all the shows in New Jersey, and they told me, you're a big fish in a little pond. Let's
Yeah.
see what you'll do if you live in California. And I said, okay, I'm moving to California. I went right in there and started challenging bodybuilders in Venice Golds, like the Barbarians. I would sit there, doing squats because I was super strong on legs
Yeah. Yeah.
then. But it was just great times. But Lee Haney, used to say, like, you looked like a rabid dog, with a
Yeah.
foam coming out of your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he saw how hard I trained. I was just like an animal in the gym.
Yeah.
And when he asked me to be his training partner, I mean, I was like, damn sure, yes, I want to be your training partner. So it was like a great thing to be able to get to train with Lee Haney. And I learned a lot with Lee Haney because, his whole training philosophies are, what he believes in. What does he believe in? Stimulate, don't annihilate. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I still believed in annihilating a muscle because I didn't have his genetics. So his genetics were so superior than anybody. To this day, I say he's the greatest bodybuilder because there's a guy that retired, I guess, at 32 at 8 Mr. Olympias,
Yeah.
no injuries. His last Olympia was better than his first Olympia, where
Yeah.
you could be controversial. I'm not going to say Ronnie Coleman wasn't great.
Yeah.
He's
Of
the
course.
greatest as well.
Yeah.
But when you compare his last Olympia to his
Yeah. Yeah.
first Olympias, you can say it was questionable whether he should have got that eighth Olympia. And I always say that
Yeah.
Lee Haney got better. And I believe if Lee Haney stayed in bodybuilding, he could have won 10 Olympias.
Yeah.
I believe at least 9 Olympias. He would have
Yeah.
beaten
Yeah.
Dorian Yates, the first
The next.
Olympia that Dorian won. He would
Yeah.
have easily beaten. When Dorian got that huge size, then it was questionable that he could win. But at least I would have to say that Lee Haney would have done 9 Mr. Olympias.
So, Eric, can I just show him get into the next
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. Show him. I know a
So
picture
we
you can
have
show him.
a popular. It's getting a bit popular. It's Kevin sitting on the sofa watching Netflix, flipping through his mobile, and this literally is one of my most favorite pictures ever.
Yeah.
So what time was it? Was this before the Olympia, or were you?
No, I was still amateur in that picture. Lee
Wow.
Haney was he hadn't win the Olympia yet. He was third place in the Olympia, his first try. I was still amateur. I did not win the nationals or the world championships. That's us just training at the Reseda Gold's gym.
I mean,
and him checking me out.
That's the 80s there, right? That's the 80s
Yeah,
there,
that's 80. That's 83, 84. Yeah. I'm 62. I'm 20 years old in that picture.
Yeah. So, Lee Haney with his flip-flops there, sandals training.
Yeah.
And then
that was the year, Rich, that was the year that didn't you turn pro in 84? That's when you won it?
84, I turned pro. Yes.
Yeah.
Back then, you guys,
of course,
don't realize is like you had to win. I'm sorry, hold on.
Yeah, it's all right. No, we remember, you had to win either the world championships, right?
You had to win the world championships.
Yeah. Overall.
Overall, no, not overall. You had to win your class. You had to win the nationals and then go to the universe.
Yep.
And win the universe. If you didn't win the universe, you have to go back and start over again and try to win the nationals.
That's how hard it was.
That's how hard it was. And there was one guy, I can't remember his name. He came second like 2 years in a row. And then he came out, I came, and then I won the nationals that year.
Was it the world championships?
This was in the nationals. No, the nationals.
When you came first?
When I won the nationals, yeah. I forgot. Moses Maldonado. Yeah, Moses Maldonado.
Yeah.
He basically won the nationals 2 years in a row. Then I came out and I ended up beating him.
Wow.
And he retired from that point because he got to the world championships 2 times.
Yeah.
And then I beat him, and then he didn't come back from bodybuilding.
So, and I think when you won the world champions, Rich, didn't Mike Christian win the heavyweights?
Yeah.
Mike Christian won the heavyweights. Yes.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember these things.
Then I like showing off, some of your work. You have this. Remember that book?
Oh, yeah. 51 Days, No Excuses. That's when I got myself in shape at 48 after not, I decided to get myself in shape in 51 days because they were going to put me on the cover of Iron Man, which I got the cover of.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience that I got myself to do that in 51 days and get in great shape.
This was great. And just to start, I have this from 92.
Yeah, that's
great
another
cover.
picture. Yeah.
I ton of magazines, and I always try to find one of the guests, so
yeah.
Anyways, Eric,
you want to ask a question first and then we'll switch off?
Yeah, I mean, competing back then, there was the European tour. Remember you did the European tour? How was it?
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah, that was like week after week.
First off, it was a great experience because you were with all the athletes going from country to country to country, which was an unbelievable experience. But it was really grueling, especially if you were competitive, because certain guys they get into the Grand Prix, and by the last Grand Prix, they were like out of shape, fat guys.
Yeah.
And then there was guys like myself or Lee Labrada that were like really hungry to win. So they were staying in great shape. I did it really only 2 years of Grand Prix, was 87 and 88. But the 87 Grand Prix was funny. It was the only time Lee Haney competed outside of the Olympia.
Yeah,
he went into the German Grand Prix, which he won. And then the rest of the Grand Prix I won that year.
Yeah.
I won, French Grand Prix.
Yeah.
UK
In 88,
Grand
you won
Prix.
4. Yeah. Yeah.
I won 4 out of 7, which I got second to Labrada. And it was the first time to lose. I never, just imagine from 86 to 88, for like 86, 87, 88, I've never lost to anyone but Lee Haney.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys just wanted to beat me, even though they want to beat Lee Haney. They're like, well, we got to beat Rich first.
Yeah.
So Labrada was the first to be able to beat me. And that was really, really mentally hard because, I felt I was going to sweep all the shows. Lee's a really good friend of mine, and he has a great physique, mass with class. You can't take it away from him.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't, that cocky Rich Gaspari back then could say, I should have beat him every time. But I could see, with his aesthetics, I had, grainy muscle, eye popping muscle that, that people like, that wow factor where he had just an aesthetic physique, and, it was apples to oranges. And he ended up beating me in 3 out of the 7 Grand Prix. But it's funny. I felt good because I won that last Grand Prix. I beat him in the last Grand Prix.
So you still had 4 out of 7.
Yeah, I got 4 out of 7. But we always talk about it, that me and Lee, I said, like, it's funny when you're competitive, and now, like, all the time has passed, all these guys, like even Mike Christian, we had some good battles, me and Mike Christian, because he was favored to be the next Mr. Olympia, because of, he was big, but he had weaker legs, but he had a phenomenal back, phenomenal upper body. And then he could not beat me. And it was like, it really pissed him off that he couldn't beat me, so it was really good, really good time. So, but you talked about the Grand Prix. Let me tell you something. When you're very competitive and you have shows that are not just every week, but say a Friday and a Saturday,
2 days
you
in a
want
row.
to peak for each show, it's really tough. And that's why, like, I could win a show and then, maybe the next day, because I tried to stay hard, maybe I got a little flat, and then Labrada beat me because it was really hard. You can't peak a whole, like, every day. Your body goes through ups and downs. So it was a very difficult process to be able to be on top the entire time.
Of course.
And, so you talk about when you're really competitive, if you don't give a shit, you're just going and having free trips to all these different countries. But I didn't really enjoy wherever I was. It was all about winning the show.
You didn't care where you were. You were just like, this is another show I got to win.
You were like the Lavroni of the 90s back then. You were
exactly. There's only I think me, Kai Green, and Kevin Lavroni who got 3 seconds. I think Lavroni got 3 seconds. Kai Green got 3 seconds, and I also got 3 seconds. So so in the class,
actually,
that's pretty.
Flex Wheeler got second 3 times.
Did he get 3 times?
Twice to Ronnie.
Okay,
Ronnie,
so there you go. So I'm in the class with Flex Wheeler, Kevin Lavroni, and Kai Green.
So we call you all uncrowned Mr. Olympias.
Going into the next thing, so then Eric can grill you on some questions. This week I watched an interview, a great interview. Lee Labrada does some amazing work. The way he's calm, and these interviews are really great. And he had Branch Warren, and they touched on placing second when he placed second to Lee Haney. Not Lee Haney, sorry, Jay Cutler. It was Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler.
He placed second to Jay Cutler, and he said, like, everybody was telling him, you placed second. You should be really proud of yourself. And he was like, man, that's the worst place to finish. I just wanted to go home. I didn't want to see anybody. I just wanted to go back and train. How did you feel when it was like,
if I look back now, I'm very proud of my second places because, like you said, it's an accomplishment to get second place in the biggest show ever. But back then, when I got second, I wanted to beat Lee Haney. But my point in beating Lee Haney, it's funny because when I got my first Mr. Olympia, I got 3rd place, top 3 on my first try. Lee Haney got 3rd place on his first try. So well, I'm going to follow Lee Haney's, footsteps. I'm going to get 3rd and I'm going to win. I'm going to beat Lee Haney. Of course that didn't happen because that was the Lee Haney reign. So I got my first, 3rd, and then I got my 2nd. I was more motivated to say, you know what? I'm going to beat him. And this one you're showing is my biggest in 87.
87.
So I was in the 220 range. My normal weight was like 208, 209. There I was 220. I was at my biggest. I thought for sure I can get him. I had great shape in that year, but size. I wasn't shredded, but I think I was big enough and ripped enough for the guys that I was going against that I had a shot to beat him. But of course that didn't happen. And Lee beat me again. And then the following year I got leaner, and tried to come in ripped again because they said, oh, you better watch it because if you try to get too big, you're going to get blocky. I thought, my shoulders were bigger there. My chest was thick as hell. For me, it was one of my the way I felt, this was one of my best shapes,
Incredible.
because
Yeah.
I was thick.
Let me just say something, because that actually leads into one of the question that I had, because I'm curious to know, and I asked this of a lot of Mr. Olympias that I speak to. What was your, I mean, I think, 85 was your first year, which, you looked insane. I mean, 86, I think, I mean, obviously you were incredible, but I think 86, 87, 88 were your three best years as I view
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
but had very different looks for each. Like you had, like you
Yes.
said, 87, you came in huge, a little bit less sharp, but huge, full. 88, you came way down. You were shredded, a much smaller version of yourself. In 86, you were maybe kind of like a combination of the two. What do you personally think was your best? If you had to choose from those three, what's your best look? What did you say, this is my best ever?
I mean, when I won the Pro World, which was, that was the Arnold Classic before it was called the Arnold Classic in 86.
You looked incredible at that show.
I think the conditioning in that show, I don't even know if any guys have gotten it that same. I was rock hard. Was I as big as at 87? No, but the conditioning was crazy. I mean, you could see every striation I had in my body in that show, and it was just an incredible shape.
Yeah.
But
you beat Christian again in that show, right?
That's where I beat.
Christian was huge.
He was huge, and I beat him. I beat him in the shape. This one here you're showing is like, I think that's like
Arnold
92.
Classic.
Arnold Classic.
Oh, that's Arnold.
That's 89.
Oh, 89. So I thought I was too small at the Arnold Classic, even though I won it. That was probably my smallest. But
so do you think? So you're saying the world championships?
I liked my 87. Because I was just thick, full. Was I as sharp? No, I wasn't as sharp, but the muscle just looked so much better. And if I didn't get the judges telling me that that I'll lose if I stay in that condition, I think I could have got bigger and got up to like 230.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I went back down, and my weigh-ins, I was only like 209.
Yeah,
by the time I got on stage, maybe I was about 211 when I carved in. So that's like from 222. That's a big, weight difference to go on stage for an 88.
You really came down. You really came down. And actually, I just wanted to mention to you, because the first pro show you ever did was Night of Champions, right?
Yeah, Night of Champions.
85. I was at that show. That was
cool.
I was 17 years old. I was at that show, and I remember it was you. It was Albert Beckles won.
Yeah,
he came in second, which was very arguable, but Albert's a legend.
Yeah.
Frank Richard was third, and Mike, I think, was fourth. Mike Christian.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you at that show and being like, "Who? Wow!" I mean, I saw the World Championships when you won, but then when I saw you on stage, I was like, unbelievable. Like I was like, this guy is like unbelievable. Like I couldn't believe it. And I wanted to just mention here, since we're talking about you competing, you were really the first person to ever bring in striated glutes. Really, you never really saw it before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you were up there on the 85 Olympia, clearly striated, and you're even showing it to the judges, like, "Here, look at my glutes." Like I remember you pointing at them. So, and then it became like you had to have striated glutes now. Like after you had them, now it's like a thing. Guys actually train their ass just because they want to have striated glutes. Now,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, did you do anything specifically for your glutes, or was that just your conditioning, genetics, and from squatting, leg pressing, lunging, all that stuff?
Well, it's funny, what did I do to get striated glutes? Like I was doing reverse lunges and walking lunges. Who taught me was Corey Everson. She was doing lunges. So it was more of a girl exercise, and I did them, and I'm saying, fuck, this is not a girl exercise. This is hard, doing lunges with weights. So I started doing them because I really felt my legs, but I also felt my glutes. And it wasn't really like, oh, let me work on striated glutes. It wasn't like that. It was when I was in the gym posing with the gym owner. I turn around, I was in my underwear and posing, we go in there, pose. And then he goes, holy shit. He goes, your ass is striated. And I'm going, really? So I started showing it. I'm like, you're right, Mike. My ass is really developed. I didn't really think of it as a muscle, because back then the trunks you would cover your
Went
glutes.
over it, yeah.
So I'm also the first guy to cut my trunks to show my glutes. No one did that.
Yeah.
So when I went into the 85 Olympia, I had my, CJ, she passed away, who did all the trunks. I was good friends with her. I said, CJ, can you cut my trunks so you could see the glutes? He goes, what do you mean? You want a G-string? I said, no, kind of like cut them in a little bit. She goes, well, they may ride up your ass. So I said, listen, I'll just get some glue and glue them onto my, my side. So they were actually glued on.
Wow.
And when I went on stage and I showed that, the judges were so impressed with the conditioning because it was never seen before. That it was something where even though Lee Haney was the Mr. Olympia, it's like I set a standard in the sport that everybody then wanted to follow, having striated glutes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't done intentionally. Yeah, now everybody wants striated glutes.
Yeah. The people now, and even me as a coach, which I coach, tons of athletes, it's like you're not in shape now unless you have striated glutes. Like that's like a thing. Like glutes got to get striated, otherwise you're not in shape.
Yeah.
And I mean, not everybody has striated glutes, even though they get tremendously lean. You just but it became like this amazing standard now in bodybuilding. Like everybody looks for striated glutes, and now it's actually like another body part. I'm almost surprised they don't have a mandatory pose for the glutes.
I know, it's like, because it really is it's a muscle, so it's a body part.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's I remember Jay Cutler goes, why did you have to set that stupid standard about glutes? Because he never had, Jay got in great condition and stuff, but his last Olympia was he never
had striated glutes, those striated.
No, and he goes, oh, I don't think it's that, because he couldn't get it. He goes, I don't think it's that important. He gets striated glutes.
Yeah.
Where Ronnie Coleman, he had unbelievable striated. Yeah, he had unbelievable striated glutes.
Some photos of unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you started it.
Yes, I know. That's what everyone always says. You started the trend.
Everybody's pissed off at you for that because everybody's got to diet off another 10 pounds.
And talking about the competitions, Rich, in '89 you won the Arnold Classic, and that's when you fell to third in the Olympia. Then, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it was winning? Maybe you put everything into the Arnold, and it maybe affected you that year, or?
Well, after I got done with the Grand Prix tour, I did 7 Grand Prix, Olympia. I was really burnt out. And then what happened for the Arnold Classic, I should have took a break, but Arnold personally called me on the phone because it was the first Arnold Classic. Yeah. And he asked me, Rich, can you go into the Arnold Classic? It'd be an honor to get you to go into this show. It's going to be a great show. Yeah. It's going to be covered, by, national TV. You can win this. I'm going to get you on the Tonight Show, which I was on a Tonight Show with actually Mike Christian, who ended up not competing in that show. Yeah. But I did it because of that reason, but maybe I should have taken a break because I've actually had a pec tear from, competing in that show. And I was basically burnt out. By the time I get to the '89 Olympia, I was burnt out. Yeah. I stayed in Italy to try to recover, to think I was going to be able to get in great shape. I got some bad advice from coaches there, which, I always self-coached, and then I had a coach who got me on Diazide. I never taken, believe it or not, all the conditioning you saw me in, I never took a diuretic.
Wow. I love that you said that, because so many people think you have to use a diuretic to get anything close to that. And I love that you say that you didn't take a diuretic and you were dry to the bone. So
and I took that diuretic, and honestly, that's what made me hold water. Taking that, I had a reverse effect from it. Yeah. So I went on stage, and when I got into that show, again, a newcomer came in, Vince Taylor, who ended up beating me. Yeah, but and then what happened was, because they worked me, that by the time I got to the night show, I looked amazing because I lost the water, but it was too late. I've already, it was already over. So I always tell people, like, we trained our own bodies because we were our own coaches. Who knows your body better than you do? And it's not that I'm against it, and I'm not against coaches, but it got to the point now that, people are so dependent on coaches. Yeah. You should know your body a little bit. And of course, have somebody who has a good eye to look at you, because I wish I had that to be able to help me, because a lot of it was just myself. But it got to the point that you see these guys that just like, do I go to the bathroom right now? Can I do this?
I know.
Can I do that?
Hey, Rich, since we just brought up the topic, I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, go ahead.
But I think this would be really good to discuss since we were just talking about it. So for the people out there who always think diuretics is necessary, and I personally don't think that they are, what did you do in your last couple of days? What was your process to get rid of water without diuretics and come in that sharp?
Well, first off, a lot of people take diuretics because they just didn't diet right. They didn't get themselves in condition. So I always tell people you have to be ready 2 weeks out from a show.
Right.
So if you're ready and you actually start getting flat, I would slowly start filling out by slowly increasing my carbs. So the glycogen, I never believed in like 3 or 4 days, 0 carbs, a low carb, and then 3 days of carbing up. No, I never did that. I got myself in condition 2 weeks out. And then what I did is I started cutting, like say cardio, so that I wasn't in this caloric deficit and that my body could start filling out. And I slowly, say 30 to 50 grams of carbs per day, started increasing my carb intake. Wow. And started filling myself out 2 weeks out. Now, when it came to the water, I would drink as much as I could, but then cut my water the day before. And because if you're drinking right up to the day before the show,
a diuretic,
and you just cut your water, you're still going to piss your brains out naturally, and you're going to come in rock hard, slightly dehydrated. And that's how I did it always to get in shape.
Okay. Did you do anything with sodium? Did you do anything with sodium in the last couple of days?
I didn't really, to get glycogen to go into the muscle, you need sodium to get glycogen into the muscle. And a lot of guys were back then going on like using distilled water with no sodium, which I thought was a mistake.
They get flat.
So I would actually take in, not a lot, but when I started drinking, I would actually take in some sodium. Not a lot, but actually take in some sodium so that, it was able to help, move the carbs into the muscle. Too many guys make that mistake and go without any salt. And you're not going to hold water if you're taking, salt before a show. If you're in great shape, I mean.
Right. No, I agree. And I'm glad because that's what I was hoping you were going to point out, because people have it backwards so much. They don't understand. They use a diuretic, or they drop water too early, or they take out the sodium, and then they wonder why they walk on stage flat as can be.
Yeah. There's this clip.
Remember, and they're not as ripped.
Yeah. You were showing your calves here. This was the 88 Olympia before it.
Yes.
And you were explaining that you have no skin, no fat anymore,
Yes.
Look at this.
There's nothing there.
Amazing.
Skin and muscle.
Yeah. And you're eating white fish. That's the secret.
Yeah, I was eating white fish back then. But you asked me, it's like if you're in condition 2 weeks out, you can actually relax your training.
Yeah.
And you can do more pumping. And you know what I mean? You don't have to sit there doing tons of weight before a show because you're going to get injured because your body fat's so low anyways. Just pump the muscle, taking the slowly increased carbs. And I said I would carb up 2 weeks out, just slowly increase those carbs, right up into the show. And I would also look at what I look like. Maybe I wouldn't continue increasing carbs, kind of keep them the same. And then because I was lessening my training intensity, because I was lessening the cardiovascular training, that was helping my body also fill with glycogen.
Right. You don't need, because you're eating the same amount of calories, but you're doing less. So obviously it's like you're loading anyway.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm glad, because a lot of people out there, like I said, they have it backwards. And they think
it's a big mistake. It's a big mistake. I see top pros. Even today, they show themselves 2 weeks out. They look amazing. Then on stage, I'm like, they're all washed out.
Exactly.
And then I hear they take in, like, the amount of carbs today's bodybuilders take. I think it's in, like 1,000 grams, like something ridiculous because they're so big.
Yeah.
And then what they do to prevent them from holding water, they take a diuretic. So this is the reason why it's hit or miss for them to come in great shape. I mean, one of the guys that I'm very impressed with that I feel has the conditioning of, say, the bodybuilders of my day is a Hadi Chupin. That
Of
guy
course.
is
That
rock
was what.
hard,
Yep.
Unreal.
ripped, and he
Full.
looks. The conditioning of that guy is
He
of
goes back to
yesteryear,
your
but
age.
he's still bigger. You know,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
still
he's a
bigger.
monster. He's a monster. Yeah, to me, he's got the best conditioning of anybody in the sport, especially from the front. From the back, oddly
Yes.
enough, not quite as hard, but from the
Yes.
front, he has the chest, the abs, I mean, he's just from the front, he's like Mr. Olympia straight out.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
he's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's funny because you compare Derek Lunsford, who's from the back is amazing, but from the front,
I know it's very strange.
Yeah.
It's very, if you had Hadi's front and Derek's back, nobody could ever beat him.
No.
He'd be unbeatable.
Yeah.
Unbeatable.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Rich, moving on from like Eric, did you have anything more about
No,
training?
you go for I'll come up later.
Like getting into supplement companies. Obviously, you know, there was Labrada back then. I think he was like one of the first guys to
Yep.
start it. And then you came around, you know,
Yeah.
going shop to shop, you know, the hard working guy, you know, getting his brand out there, you know, nothing comes easy, right? In life, as you know, more than anybody else, right?
Yeah.
How do you compare it to a guy like trying to open a company today? I mean, back then, was it something, especially being a bodybuilder, promoting his name and a brand, you know?
Well, back then there's very few brands,
Yeah.
so it wasn't a saturated market. And Labrada he was about a year and a half before me, before I started my company. And you know, he's another guy I get mentored by him to say like, wow, this guy did this and he started a supplement company. So that's one of the reasons I started, you know, Gaspari Nutrition. But today it is a very hard, vicious market. It's very saturated. If anyone now tells me they want to get in the supplement business, I've been in it for 29 years.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm an established brand and it's still hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's still hard. And you're always trying to reinvent yourself. But if you want to start a brand from scratch, a bodybuilding fitness brand, I would tell them don't do it because it's just too saturated. It's not because I'm jealous that I don't want someone to make it. It's very difficult. You need a lot of money. You know, I have millions of dollars in inventory to stay in business. You know, the margins are much tighter. You better know your accounting. And, you know, when I started, I kind of just started.
Yeah.
So I was making huge margins. I can make a lot of money. And as it got more competitive, you know, your competitors, well, I'll charge less. Then you got to charge less. And I charge. And then what happens, that margin shrinks. So how do you run the business? You can't be just spending willy-nilly. You really have to, you know, sharpen the pencil to make sure that you are very tight with your margins to stay in business. And if you're doing volume, you can make money. But if you're not doing volume, it's a much harder business. So, I mean, that's my advice to anyone is it's going to be difficult unless you're someone, you know, there's anomalies. You got someone like a Bumstead, you know, is amazing because he has such a high following. You know, just off his following alone, he's going to make money because he has a following that people just go to him. And, you know, but otherwise, if you're just trying to start out, I would not advise it.
And like back then you used to sponsor some as well with your brand to get it out there. I think you had Ashley, right? Kaltwasser.
Ashley Kaltwasser, Flex Lewis, Hidi Yamagishi, who I still have Hidi Yamagishi, which is amazing.
Wow.
He's going to the Masters Olympia.
He's still with
52.
you?
He's still with me because he is the Arnold Schwarzenegger of Japan.
Yeah.
So he has a royalty deal with me in Japan. I have products with his name on it, and it sells to the Japanese market. And that's one of my biggest markets is Japan.
Unbelievable. And then
he is a great guy too.
Yeah,
he is great. I mean, I'm in Vegas, so I go to his gym. I have Flex Lewis where I go to the Dragon's Lair. I have Hidi over at Powerhouse. Hidi is just such a good guy. It's great that he's still with you. And he is like a legend in Japan.
I think that's one of the longest partnerships I think around, you know, because
it's probably 16 years, 17 years as an athlete for the company.
That's good stuff, you know. That's like, you know, faith in a competitor and even as a friend, and you know, you get a good relationship going. And
you know, it's good to see both Flex Lewis and Hide, very successful.
Yeah.
Flex Lewis, successful after his career, and
Yeah.
then even Hide with his gym.
Yeah.
Plus, he has shows in Japan, so he's doing amazing. So it's great to see.
It's
Incredible.
great that he's going to do his final show, and it's actually in Japan. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yes, it's funny. He really didn't want to. He won last year. He won the Masters Olympia, and he wanted to retire. And because it was in Japan, it was one of the reasons why. But it was like, it's not something he necessarily wanted. He said, like, I wanted to retire. He's like, but he's doing it this year, so I'm wishing him, the best to how he's going to do.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Eric? I just have one more, maybe not to keep Rich so long, because obviously he's busy.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to talk a little bit more. I'm the big training guy, so I wanted to know, just to give people, I mean, because Rich, you were always in such incredible condition, and a lot of guys today strive for the condition that you had back when you were competing. So a couple of things I just want to ask you. I don't want to make you crazy, but as far as cardio for you, when you were preparing for shows, did you sort of progressively up cardio as you went to a show? What was the highest amount of cardio you would do? What type of cardio did you use? Just a little bit on that.
First off season, I didn't do any cardio. I relied basically on diet and training, weight training. When it came to getting my body fat low, I would slowly say I'd start dieting, say 14 weeks out. I would start doing, say, 3 days a week of like 20 minutes of cardio. And then I would slowly progress, by changing my diet. And if I was leaning out, sometimes I would just keep it 3 days a week, 30 minutes, and it was enough. Some of those shows in my best condition, I did very little cardio. Some of the other shows, I needed to do more cardio. And what I would do is slowly increase cardio from 3 days a week to 4 days a week to 5 days a week. When I got to sticking points that I needed to get a little harder, I would increase the cardio. I think too many guys, they try to increase cardio right away. I think it should be a slow progression. Is when you get to a sticking point and you're not losing, any more body fat, or you're not getting as lean as you want to get, increase the cardio more so. I mean, the most I ever did was an hour, 5 days a week, which was a lot for me. And it was always after training, or, I did it fasting cardio, like in the morning. But I never did it where I was going 7 days a week, twice a day. I never had to go that far. I did fortunately have a good metabolism that I stayed relatively lean most of the year, so it wasn't that bad for me. My later years, it got harder for me, and I started getting injured. And now I found out that what happened is my body started changing. I started placing lower because I found out that I had a ruptured disc in my neck. So it was causing issues with my back and my conditioning. So one of the things that happened to me is it ruptured back in 1990. I tried to make a comeback in 1998 or 97, where it herniated, and then my right side went paralyzed, and that was pretty much okay. I'm done with my career. And that's when that's when I started Gaspari Nutrition. And I always tell people it was a blessing in disguise, because I don't know what I would have done. It was during the Dorian era, more mass guys. I would have been, pushing the envelope to try to get bigger. I even my 87 shape, I'd have probably be another 15, 20 pounds bigger just to compete with the guys. So it is what it is. But with cardio, it's a slow progression. When I got to sticking points, not just doing some high amounts. I didn't really go like crazy. I like doing HIIT cardio, where I, do walking first, sprint, walk. That's kind of what I did.
And what about, and how did you handle your diet? So first of all, when would you generally, I mean, I know it probably changed a little bit throughout your career, but generally, how long would you take where you're like, okay, this is my pre-contest phase? How long out from a show would you consider that when you would start that?
Anywhere between 12 and 14 weeks, I'd start dieting. I was in relatively good shape anyways, but it was always around 14 to 12 weeks. I'd start getting ready for a show, changing my diet. I always followed. I always tell people, I do a 40-40-20 when I got, 40% protein, 40% complex carbs, 20% fat. When I got ready for a show, it was more like 45% protein, 35% complex carbs, you know, 15 to 20% fat. That was kind of like my diet. I sometimes carb depleted where I would go up in, carbs and increase my fats. It was more just a play on just how I looked. I would kind of fluctuate my carbohydrates and increase my proteins and fats if I felt that I wasn't getting in condition. But a lot of times I'd stay with the same diet. I mean, off season, I was staying around sometimes around 5,500, 6,000 calories was my highest. I didn't go that crazy. But for a show, I would diet down to like anywhere between 28 and 3,500 calories.
I've never seen you out of shape when you're in your back then,
No, I that's why it was kind of easy to get myself in shape because I was always in shape. Maybe I should have got myself more out of shape.
Yeah.
I was like a nut that I constantly was training, and maybe my career would have lasted. I would say maybe my career would have lasted a little longer if I took breaks and let
Yeah.
my
But
body rest or let some.
there was the guest posing. You had to hustle back then, right?
That's the thing to make a living.
Yeah.
And because I was a second place Olympian, and third place my first year, I was very popular, and I was sometimes every weekend traveling. And people understand as a pro bodybuilder,
Yeah.
you can't be a fat shit when you go on stage,
It's true.
for a guest posing. So you got
Yeah.
to be halfway decent.
Yeah.
And it's the only time I took diuretics was I would, for a guest posing, because I was a little bloated or whatever. I
Yeah.
take a diuretic before I guest posing, but nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But I would for guest posing. But yeah, when you had to make a living out of it,
Yeah.
and you start traveling every weekend, it becomes really hard on your body that
Yeah.
and you're trying to look good because a promoter brings you in, and then if you're out of shape, you're gonna get a bad reputation. And
Yeah.
I was traveling a lot. I was probably one of the highest paid athletes of that era. Me and Lee Haney, because I was one of the most requested
Yeah.
guys. I got to travel everywhere, Japan, Europe, all over Europe, South America, Russia. So I got to go to a lot of places, being a pro bodybuilder.
All right, I got one more question, and Kevin, I'm going to hand it over to you because I could talk to you, Rich, for hours about training and everything, but I don't want to keep you forever. Greatest, I mean, I'm just curious if you have one, maybe you have more than one. Greatest moment in your career. What is there something that stands out that was just like the highlight of your career, a moment on stage or in the gym or whatever it
I,
is?
I think when I won the Mr. Universe and I turned pro, I knew my life would change because I was an unknown bodybuilder. And once I won that Mr. Universe, and calling yourself Miss back then,
Mr.
being
Universe.
called Mr. Universe was a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, how's it feel to be Mr. Universe? And it was just a great feeling
Yeah.
to win that show. And it was funny because I got guest posings right away.
Yeah.
And one of the guest posing was all the way in Tahiti. So to get to
Oh.
Tahiti, I had to stop in New Zealand. I was at the airport, and a guy comes up, "Oh, you're Rich Gaspari," and that was kind of a moment where, holy moly, I'm all the way in New Zealand, and this guy recognizes me that I'm Rich Gaspari. So it's kind of like that moment that when I turned pro, it changed my life.
How good is your memory, Rich? What song did you pose to at that universe that you won? Do you remember?
Oh, relax.
Yes. I love that
Yeah,
routine. I loved that routine when you did to that
yeah,
song.
yeah,
Totally
Um,
awesome.
the universe, it's still going on. It's actually the World Championships now,
yeah,
it's still
yeah.
going on in Europe. I mean, very popular. I mean, Chupan came from there. A lot of great bodybuilders graduated through that. In fact, the trophy still says Mr. Universe on it, even though it's the World Championships. It still says
Yeah.
IFBB Mr. Universe. But Ben Weider back then, because of the Olympics dream, being called World Championship is more relatable to the Olympics than Mr. Universe. So, there's a
Yeah.
long story about it, but it's a historic event, and it still goes on. So, um, my final question, not to put you on the spot, uh, I know Lee Haney loves you. In fact, I told him this morning, I sent him a message by email. I said, listen, Gaspari's going to be on the show now. And, he said, he's my buddy, he's my brother.
Yeah.
Lately, Lee Haney, unfortunately, I agree with him personally, 8-time Mr. Olympia. I think he has a right to say his opinion, to express his
Yes.
opinion on what direction the sport is going, okay? Not to mention
Mhm.
any bodybuilders, some of them you know, they look like freaks. They're huge. The people love them. But coming from that era where it was all aesthetics, condition, everything had to be balanced, what's your opinion on it, Rich? I mean, I know you're a bit more in touch. I'm not saying Lee's not in touch with today's bodybuilding, but you've been around it a bit more
Yeah.
in detail.
Well, I say the cream of the crop always rises. You have the top bodybuilders that are there. I think Lee Haney said something, bodybuilding lost its soul
Yeah,
or something in that manner.
yeah,
I still feel it's, when those top guys are up there, if like I mentioned, Hadi Chupin, great bodybuilder, Derek Lunsford, great
yeah,
bodybuilder,
yeah,
Samson, great
yeah.
bodybuilder. But look, I'm mentioning guys, you know, uh, what's his name? Jacked.
Andrew
What's
Jack.
his
Andrew Jack. Yeah,
Andrew Jacked,
yeah,
another great bodybuilder.
yeah,
Um, they're really the same guys, that are there. They're there year after year. In the past 5 years, they
yeah,
don't change. I mean, you had a couple of changes. Big Ramy now kind of went up, and now he's
yeah,
down. But
yeah,
overall, the guys stay up there for a while, and you don't see like the changing of the guard so quickly. You
yeah,
see now, Martin. I think Martin Fitzwater's got a beautiful physique. I
yeah,
think he's going to do great as a pro.
yeah.
Um, is it lost its soul? Mr. Universe means nothing right now. It doesn't mean
No,
anything. Or,
since
or
yeah,
getting a pro card
yeah,
means nothing. Some guy goes, I'm a pro. I'm like, okay, you out of 1,000 pros. Let's
yeah.
see
Yeah.
what you're going to do as a pro.
That's
And
it.
not even in a
That's
pro show, because
yeah,
you can win a pro show because there's so many of them. What are you going
yeah,
to place in the Olympia? What are you going to place in the Arnold?
yeah,
Those are the guys you have to look for that are the top guys. And
yeah.
those guys there's only a handful of those
Exactly.
guys that are up there. So
Yeah,
those still are greats. They're still considered the greats. It just changed. Unfortunately, everything changes. I don't want
yeah,
to be a dinosaur and go like, it was better in my day.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, you got great bodybuilders today. You had great bodybuilders then. The bodybuilders are very impressive today, how much bigger they are. You also have this diversity of, comparing classic bodybuilders, which I think is a great division to
yeah,
really show almost that golden era of bodybuilders, what they can look like to these mass monsters in bodybuilding. So, you give people a lot of choices of where they want to go, whether
yeah,
they want to be a classic bodybuilder. I believe those are two great divisions, whether you're going to be a bodybuilder or
yeah,
a classic bodybuilder. I'm not really into the physique, although I'm impressed with, physique champions. I just don't see it as like just standing there and doing like, front and back. And to me,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. I
And you
get
can
it.
have no
so, but
legs.
and you have no legs, so
Yeah,
to me, it's like, come on, you got to develop your legs.
yeah,
But I still respect them because there's some great physique bodybuilders as well.
yeah, yeah,
So my opinion is it's just different. It's just
yeah,
changed. That's the way it is. You can't look at what football was 40 years ago and how it is today.
yeah,
The athletes are definitely different. Do I believe one of the things is the art of posing
yeah.
kind of went away, and that
That's for
should come
sure.
back.
Yeah,
And we really worked on routines, and these top pros, the routines are horrible. There's only a couple guys
it's
that are,
true.
have impressive
It's
routines,
true. It's true.
and that's sad, because that was part of the presentation.
Yeah,
You can't just go up there and pose like you're like at a guest spot. You
yeah,
should have a well choreographed routine,
yeah.
which you see the classic bodybuilders are
I
doing.
was gonna tell
You
you. Yeah, yeah.
but not the
Yeah.
bodybuilders.
No,
And they
no.
should score. They should score on it. They should have some type
Exactly.
of scoring mechanism.
Yeah,
Another thing is it's the art. They lost calves. Bodybuilders don't look at calves as something
yeah,
to be
Yeah.
like they need calves anymore. I'm like, what
Yeah.
the hell happened to calves? And like,
Yeah. It's it's a boring exercise, eh? It's not something they like doing, probably, you know. It's either
yeah, so
you
you got great bodybuilders that are standing on stage and like they don't have calves. Like, what the hell? They don't train. I would train with Lee Haney. We would train calves 3 days a week, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like clockwork. We would do our calves first before any body part,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we trained them, you know. And but today's bodybuilders, because they don't really judge, you know. I guess, you know, I asked the judge and they go, we do, you know, if you have two bodybuilders and one has calves and one doesn't and they're close, we're gonna judge it. But then you know, you see guys winning with no calves.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, yeah, I mean, I can keep talking to you forever, just as Eric. I mean, you have anything else, Eric?
Rich, last thing that just popped into my head when you're talking about the ears, um, and I don't want to get controversial with this, but we see a lot of, I feel like we're seeing a lot of more deaths, early deaths in bodybuilders, and it's really sad, you know, to see people passing away, 20s, 30s, 40s. Um, do you think that, you know, when I say the guys, I mean anybody who competes, are relying too much on PEDs today compared to what they used to? I kind of feel like people today, when I was younger, most of the questions that I was asked as a coach or a trainer, whatever, is tell me about, you know, what's the best way to train? What's the way I diet? Now I notice younger guys come to me and they're like, what should I use? And I feel like the focus has switched off of how to kill it in the gym, how to eat, to what do I need to take? Do you see that as an issue today? Do you feel like the guys in your era maybe like they relied more on just busting their ass in the gym, dieting until they couldn't see straight versus maybe what's happening today? Do you see that?
I do believe that the bodybuilders don't train as hard. I'm in my early 60s and I train in the gym and I can beat up guys in their 20s, which I shouldn't be able to, you know, at a guy my age, but I still, you know, I still love training. And I said, if you were training with me in my 20s, I would destroy you. You know, I tell people, and I do think they rely more on the drugs. Um, and if you're taking drugs, I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't take, you know, we took steroids in our era, much less. I think we were more experimenting back then on what the dosages were. We didn't really know. And we found out about certain drugs. You know, I hear trend is so prevalent right now in the sport that people are taking huge dosages.
Yeah,
We
There's
were
women
taking
taking it.
yeah, I mean, I was taking Powerball, which was 76 milligrams. I would do
Nothing.
maybe two vials a week, which is 150. And you know, I did a podcast. I said I did 150 milligrams of a trend, a form of trend. Oh, that's impossible. You were doing more than that. I go, no, that's what I was taking.
yeah,
So we took a lot less. I think today's guys, because they are taking more, they should go to the doctor. They should get blood work done to see where they're at, because you're really playing Russian roulette with the amount of drugs that they're taking, if they are taking high dosages. So I would definitely recommend, um, you know, getting blood work done for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's it. That was the last thing that I wanted to ask.
yeah.
So, Kevin,
I
what do
don't,
you say?
I don't, I mean, like I said, I can't go in by one. I don't want to keep you forever, Rich, because, you know, I know you're a busy man. You know, and it has been an honor to have you on on our podcast. You know, it's something you know, I like kept thinking about. I wish to get rich. I wish to get, and I'm really thankful and grateful that you accepted, and even through a busy time that, you know, that you're, you know, at the moment. So, you know, I really appreciate it, and you know, you're always invited if you want to discuss anything on the show, and you know,
Rich, are you going to be at the Olympia this year?
I'll be there for sure.
You'll be at the
fantastic.
Olympia.
I'm in
Maybe we
my,
can have
I'm
you
in
out.
my,
Go ahead.
yeah, let's do something, but my car is going to stop
All
All
right,
and
right.
it may,
I was going to say
yeah,
maybe after the Olympia we can get your views on how it went.
yeah,
can you hear me?
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you
We
so
can
much,
hear you,
Rich.
Rich. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I'll be at the Olympia.
All right,
You can hear me. For sure. If you want to do something at the Olympia, we could do something
all
going
right.
over the athletes,
Yeah, Eric.
who's out there right now. I'd love
Yeah,
to, you know, get on the show
yeah,
again
yeah.
if you want.
We can do something
Absolutely,
live.
Rich.
You know. Yeah, yeah. Thank
All
you
right,
very
Okay.
Rich. Well,
much,
we'll be
Rich.
in touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you so much for coming on the show, Rich. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Take care. All right,
Wow,
now it's just you and me.
that was amazing.
Yeah, Rich is like I said, I've been watching Rich since I'm early. I mean, my first bodybuilding pro show I ever went to was Night of Champions where he competed. I worked with him at Gaspari Nutrition for a period of time. And man, let me tell you how passionate he was. I would get a phone call from Rich every single day that he wanted to talk about the supplement line.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even talk to him as much as he wanted to talk, but he just was so into it. Eric, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? What should we do? It was awesome.
In fact, it was through him I got to know you.
Oh, because I know the connection exactly. So that's what we got to know each other.
Yeah.
But and yeah, he's just listen, he's a legend. He's a legend in the sport. He's a Hall of Fame legend.
Yeah.
And having him on the show. Now we've had Lee Haney, we've had Rich Gaspari.
Yeah. And we have other guests coming up. Yeah.
We have more coming up, but it was great having him on for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I come from I was a studio director working, publishing magazines and newspapers. Way back then, that book, what was it called?
The one that you showed. Oh, the
51 Days, No Excuses, I was doing him free advertisements. I was just sending him banner after banner. And he loved it, and he probably forgot, I didn't want to say, reminding him on the when he was on, but he sent me that personally. He sent me that book personally.
Oh, that was the book that we got connected by.
Yeah. He sent me that book, and I've had it ever since. And I that's the. I mean, Rich, he's one of those guys that he has great genetics, but he didn't have that flowing shape like Lee Haney or Flex Wheeler, or he really had to work to get where he's at. He changed a physique that maybe other people would give up, and he kept going until he hit the top. You know what I mean? So and he did push Haney. Yeah,
he definitely did the most with his genetics of almost anyone that I could think of. And I'm sure that Lee Haney looked at him and said, I'm sure that Rich Gaspari helped make Lee Haney a better bodybuilder.
Of course.
Lee Haney knew, I got to stay ahead of this guy. This guy is a beast. This guy is hungry. And he's coming after me. And just the way like Jay and Ronnie, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I mean, Rich is that's why he's a legend. And listen, could you imagine it? See, Lee Haney is like, he's like a 1 in a million bodybuilder, like he was so gifted. I mean, not that he didn't work his ass off and diet and all that, but his shape, his form, he was so gifted because he was able to be 240 to 250 pounds with a 28-inch waist.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible back, chest. Could you imagine if Lee Haney didn't exist, Rich Gaspari would have been a 3-time Mr. Olympia and maybe more.
Exactly.
I mean, so, Rich came up against, I mean, just, an incredible human being, but Rich, he was... Definitely, he like I said, he ushered in strided glutes, and to this day, people still talk about his condition.
He's still in the industry. 9 pro wins, the first Arnold Classic winner. So he has 3 second place Mr. Olympias. When he was on the European tour, he placed second each time. He didn't fall below second. So it was like after the Arnold Classic win, he like he said, he had some problems physically. So obviously he trained like an animal. He hit his peak, and obviously the body didn't respond the way it wanted to until he retired. So yeah, it is what it is. But he's still relevant today. He helped the industry a lot, and no, I think he's one of the greats,
He's the kind of guy that today that I still believe that in his best form, say like the 86, 87 area,
he would be.
You put him on the Olympia stage today and he would not be out of place.
Yeah, or the 212. Yeah.
He probably at 212, he'd be very difficult to beat. But he is like one of those guys, he's that to me, even today with his condition and his balance between body parts, he'd still be tough at pro shows, that's
and a great poser.
And like he said, and I'm really glad that he brought up that point because it seems to be
Yeah.
something that everybody discusses, that
Yeah.
you
Milos
you
was on
could
that.
say,
Yeah.
people can argue that the physiques today are just as good or better than they were back then, or whatever you want to argue, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
cannot argue that the art of posing,
Of course.
except put the classic guys aside,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the open class is not what it used to be, because
No.
all those guys used to have
Yeah.
true routines to music that flowed with the music and
Yeah.
everything. And I just don't think the guys spend enough time on that today, probably because it's not judged.
Um, Moving on, so we just cover some news this week. Unfortunately, we lost Hulk Hogan. You know,
Yeah, that was sad, and that was quite a shock. I
yeah,
couldn't believe it when I heard it.
yeah. I grew up, when I was younger. Obviously, getting into bodybuilding, there was the Incredible Hulk. Stallone, Arnold, Hulk Hogan, Paul Orndorff. Back then the wrestlers had incredible physiques.
There was some
Yeah,
bodybuilder-like wrestlers back then.
and Hulk Hogan. He brought a lot to the industry, not only wrestling, but even people wanting to go and train. I mean, all right, there was some controversial stuff during his career. I did a video highlighting some stuff, but because he was getting a lot of negativity, even after the day he passed away. I can't understand. I mean, everybody's human, everybody makes mistakes, and then when
Everybody
you're
has
at that
skeletons.
level, when you're at that level, one mistake becomes times 10. He's won some battles, personal problems, whatever. But what I think he contributed a lot to, wrestling, obviously, the fitness industry, and he was an icon. Anybody that likes bodybuilding, had to look at him, up at him at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he never had the bodybuilders kind of physique. He was
No,
just a
but
very
he had
big guy.
that
But
size.
I can imagine how many teenagers out there went into the gym saying, I want to be as big as Hulk Hogan."
Yeah,
So I mean,
I mean, I remember seeing him in Toronto. I watched a live match, him against Andre the Giant in a cage,
oh
and
wow,
seeing
that's
them.
classic.
I was like, I mean, not far back. I was in the middle of the, Toronto Maple Leaf Gardens. The side, it's not real. When you see them, it's unreal. It's like when you see Big Ramy for the first time. You know what I mean? It's like unreal when you see them like that. That size, that 300 pounds. Back then. So
And Hulk Hogan managed to actually scoop
he
Andre the
lifts
Giant
him.
up and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and slam him, which
yeah,
is like, the power that it has to
yeah.
take to do
No,
that.
no wonder he had. His back was.
Oh yeah, well, wrestling as a sport, as an entertainment, I don't call it a sport.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what those guys go through,
It's
one of the
crazy.
most brutal things to be
Yeah,
involved in is
yeah.
professional wrestling.
Yeah. And moving on, somebody has
So
this.
anyway, rest in peace, Big Hulk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll always remember him. Uh, he was great. Terry. We call him Terry, not only Hulk Hogan. Um, Moving on, obviously somebody has his 78th birthday today.
That's right.
These are the magazines I collected when I was younger, 90s, between 1990 and 1991. This issue has a 5-foot giant poster of Arnold
I
flexing his
remember,
calf.
I remember all of these issues, and I think I have them too.
Yeah, and I thought I'd bring them out on his 78th birthday. You know, um, Arnold is he's Arnold. I mean, great.
He's
One of
he's
the
become a very controversial figure,
Yeah,
but
but
putting
one of
him,
the
since this show is about bodybuilding
yeah
and about the sport,
one
what he contributed to the sport is more than
yeah
anyone on the planet.
one of the greatest bodybuilders ever. Um, he had a physique that people dream to have today.
His upper body today
Yeah,
still is.
it's
You saw him walking around, you would die, your jaw
yeah.
would drop.
Yeah, and those the arms, the chest, and I wish. I mean, when I wish he had more competitors against him back in his day because the lineups weren't big. There was a lot of politics, some controversy, but he did a lot for the sport. He has the Arnold Classic. At the moment, he's handing out the biggest prize money. Now we have to see what the Olympia is going to do. I mean, 750 grand next year is no joke, eh?
750 is, for bodybuilding. I mean, still nothing compared to other sports, but for
No.
bodybuilding,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that title used to be like 100,000. Now it's up to
Yeah.
750.
Yeah.
So Arnold definitely is pushing it up
Yeah.
for the athletes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure we're going to see the Olympia respond to that.
Yeah, yeah. And happy birthday to him, going from bodybuilder to acting, you know,
Governor,
governor. Nobody believed that he would do
married
that.
into the Kennedy family. I mean, he's
Yeah. Kennedy.
certainly an American dream.
Yeah, yeah. And now, he's, helping, he wants, clear, uh he's just, he's done everything he wanted to do, so
Well, let's just leave it at that because there's some things that we don't agree with
no,
that
no,
he's
no, no,
doing
no.
and saying, but forget about that. This is
Yeah,
about bodybuilding
yeah,
and he was one of the, I mean,
yeah, the greatest.
he's
Yeah,
Arnold. I mean,
yeah,
you say Arnold anywhere, everybody knows what you're talking about.
yeah. There's the, if I'm not mistaken, is it the Tampa Pro coming up?
That's what's coming up. Yeah. It's got a pretty deep lineup.
A deep lineup that can't even say who's gonna win, you know?
Well,
Uh
because there's no big standouts,
yeah, yeah,
So it's deep that there's a lot of quality guys. I don't know if you would call them, the A level, but there's a lot
yeah.
of, very quality guys in there. So it'd be an interesting show.
I mean, you have Brandon Alexander, Lionel Becky. He's huge.
I haven't seen him in a while, and I always thought he had tremendous potential,
Yeah.
Becky.
Jonathan De La Rosa.
He
You
always
know,
is on top
he's
form.
looking good, so he had a bit of a break now. So, if he comes, I think he was at the Arnold this year, right? If he comes looking like that, he's gonna be
He's always tough. He's always
yeah,
tough.
he's gonna be a pro. There's Patrick Moore, he's coming back.
Well, let's
John,
see how Patrick does. He's,
yeah,
he did well in his last show.
John Joett, he's another
John Joy,
great bodybuilder.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's usually in great shape.
Justin Shear, he took a year off
I
or
like I love see that guy to me when he won his pro card,
wow,
his
shredded.
physique is
Yeah, yeah,
he if
yeah.
he keeps going, I think he's got great potential. Like sort of like a Martin Fitzwater,
Yeah, yeah.
that
And
type of potential.
it's we have to see what happens because there's like
Everybody wants to try to get that last Olympia spot, another Olympia spot.
over 22 bodybuilders. So, it's a
That's
deep
like
lineup.
that's like how it used to be, when you'd see that those kind
Yeah.
of big
It's
lineups.
a deep it's funnily it's more it's a huge lineup, It's just as much as even 2-on-2 is huge, there's so many names today, I mean it's difficult to remember and keep up with everybody, it's like one guy
Yeah,
after another.
well, it's like we were talking about before with the pro cards. There's
Yeah.
so many pro cards, so many pros, new pros every year. It used to be like we'd only get like 4 or 5 new people a year, and like we knew everybody. Now
Yeah.
it's like you can't even keep up with the amount of
And the
pros.
thing is, what I wanted to mention to Rich, but I didn't want to keep on because so everybody knows, it's the busiest part of the month for Rich and his business. So I was really happy that he came on today, and I didn't realize, near the end of the month it would be not a problem for him, but it's the busiest time, But
Yeah, he still
um,
came on, and he did it from his
yeah, he
car.
came on, and
He probably went right back into the warehouse.
yeah, yeah, he went right back into the warehouse, and I'm noticing a lot of bodybuilders. I wanted to bring it up. They win their pro card. They do a contest. They place eighth or ninth, 10th. Okay, it's your first pro show. You come back, they place seventh or eighth, or even worse, they might place 12th or 13th because they don't know their body yet. Then they say, "I'm gonna take a year off." I mean, you get guys like Rich back then, and they kept fighting until they moved up, the ladder, top five or top eight. You know what I mean? Or they say, I got to take a year off to get bigger. But in that year, you're taking the year off, training hard and stuff. Injuries can happen, like we always say. So if you can't compete, compete. And I'm sure that if you keep competing, I'm not saying every weekend, and do those slight adjustments to improve, you'll get the placings, and you're making a name for yourself. It's not you. I placed 13th. I'm gonna take a year off. I mean, I'm not seeing it. Like Branch Warren always competed. He was really, competing week after week after week. And then on Labrada's show, he knew when it was time to stop, to retire, when the younger guys were beating him. All right, that's a sign that, your time is almost up. And he listened to his body, and he probably could have kept competing for another 1 or 2 years, because
Yeah.
he's had injuries, like major injuries, and he's recuperating. And but the thing is, I'm seeing some bodybuilders they just give up too easy, you know. Could it be they can't afford some coaches, or they emphasize too much on external things other than just training hard and you know focusing on the gym? I don't know. I don't know. You
I
know.
think there could be a lot of reasons. I mean, listen, some people are just more driven than others. Some people just like they're just so hungry, and that just like when Rich was saying before, like on the European tour, him and Lee Labrada would be like trying to peak and peak and peak, and
Yeah.
maybe some of the other guys were starting to eat off their diet because they're getting tired and they were getting out of shape.
Yeah.
But when you're hungry, you're hungry. But there could be financial reasons, there could be personal reasons, health reasons. There could be, sometimes, you know, for some people, the pinnacle for them is getting their pro card,
Yeah.
and then they want to focus on making money, and they don't think, competing is the way to do it. So, I mean, there's a myriad of reasons, I'm sure, why it happens. But there's no doubt that, like you said, in order to reach the top or get closer to the top,
Yeah.
you need to compete. You need to learn your body. You need to peak different ways. You need to keep striving for it, and you need to get on stage. You're a bodybuilder. You get on stage. You're a basketball player. You play all those games. You're a baseball player. You play all those games. You need to get now. Of course, I understand bodybuilding is a little different because there's a lot of toll on the body, and then
Yeah.
we're also talking
Yeah.
about PEDs, and you have to watch
Yeah.
your health. But I think that you know a lot of I think I kind of like the way the guys back years and years ago, 90s, 80s, they would compete many times a year, like
Yeah.
show after show. They would do the
Eagles.
Arnold,
Yeah.
Night of Champions, and this one and that one,
Yeah.
and they compete. And then they go on the European tour. Like, look at Milos, how many times he competed.
Yeah.
Versus today, where a lot of times you see guys maybe pick like one show, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's different. But I agree with you. I think you got
I
to just
mean,
keep practicing your craft.
yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine? Like we always mention Milos because he's a great example. Um, 78 times or something like that, pro shows. And once in a year, he did every one. Imagine you're going into a show, there's Flex, there's Kevin, there's Ronnie Coleman, there's the best ever. And he probably knew he wasn't going to win. But Milos, if you look at him on his own, he's a Mr. Olympia, you know? He had those legs, he knew how to pose, he knew how to stand, he knew how to present himself. But he went into the show trying to do the best he could. And his only win was in Canada, one win, but he was always in the top 10, you know, or even top 5 at the shows he went to. But he kept competing, each time.
Which goes to show that it can be done.
And when he took that year off, he said he never was the same. You get used to being lazy. I'm not saying he was lazy, but it's like a team. You have a winning streak of a whole year, you never lose a game, and then you lose one, you lose another, and then what do? They get used to losing again. And that's what I think happens in bodybuilding. Once you get off the track and you say I want to do this, and it's very hard to get back.
Yeah, I mean, even I know, like I've had a couple of actually not even bodybuilding related injuries, but just injuries that have
Yeah.
happened. And I know one of them, for instance, knocked me out. Well, years ago, I had one that knocked me out for 9 months.
Yeah.
But even my more recent injury I had when I moved to Las Vegas was a knee injury. And, I couldn't train for about, I don't know, it was like 9, 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And I got used to not training. I mean, I really got used to just not going to the gym. I still ate well because I didn't
Yeah.
want to,
Yeah.
I didn't want to get out of shape.
Yeah.
But it was so hard to go back to the gym because just to like be like, oh man, like I kind of like not having to go and push
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
and sweat and this and that. And so think about taking that extended like a whole year off.
Yeah.
Man, it can be tough.
Every
So
excuse you come up with, every excuse not to go to the gym.
because training, listen, I mean, training, if you're serious, training is brutal.
Yeah.
Training isn't fun. Like it's not like going to play tennis or whatever, like where you might be having, you know, training is brutal. If you're in the gym, you're in the gym to work. It hurts. You sweat, you're exhausted, you're breathing, you could be nauseous.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So to not feel that for a while, it's kind of like easy to be like, do I really want to go through that again?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it could be very, very tough. That's why I think,
And the worst thing is the muscle pain when you're away from the gym.
oh, then you go back and light
Yeah.
is
Not the day after. It's the day after that when it
well,
hits.
it's usually a 48-hour thing, but
Yeah.
yeah.
You can't
So
move.
you have to deal with that again. That's why when you go back to the gym after a layoff, please don't try to go back and do what you were doing
Yeah.
before.
You won't move.
Go
You
back
have a week.
slow. Go back slow. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so it's tough even for people who are serious bodybuilders. They take too much time off sometimes. And even if you continue training like through like a year off, sometimes you don't want to go back on the diet that you have
Exactly.
to
No,
go
something
for.
gives. Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, do I really feel like
Yeah.
suffering?
Yeah.
Because there's been a bunch of times, and I'm still considering coming back and competing again. I haven't competed since 2011 when I won the Ironman naturally, and I still think about coming back and competing because I've been training hard ever since. I'm probably bigger than I've ever been. I don't know if I can, look the way I used to in terms of being shredded. I don't know, maybe I could, but part of me, one of the reasons why I don't come, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but one of the things I think about is, oh man, feeling like feeling that exhaustion, that low blood sugar, not being
Yeah.
able to,
Yeah.
being hungry 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Do I really want to go through that
Yeah.
again?
Yeah.
So it's hard. I mean,
No, it's not
it's
easy.
tough.
People think it's some guys they stupid comments. Oh, they just take drugs. No, it's not. It's not that.
Listen, drugs are a part of it, but
Yeah,
you
it's
you
not.
can take all the drugs in the world,
Yeah, and you'll still
but
be the
but
same.
eat McDonald's every day and don't
Yeah,
train, see what you
yeah,
look like.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. I have nothing else to say today.
I think that having Rich on was great. We
Yeah,
covered a couple of topics.
yeah, yeah,
We should be having more guests. I think we may have another guest next week. I'm not sure,
yeah,
but
yeah. We have to talk about that. Yeah, gonna be a
I'll save.
surprise. Yeah,
Be surprised. I'll save any Ask Merlin questions. Please keep sending them
yeah,
to me. Great questions. Kevin always comes up with great questions,
yeah.
and
We'll see
hopefully
what.
you guys just enjoyed the show with Rich. I mean, a great episode.
Yeah, episode 10. So
10
yeah. Wow, we hit the double digits now.
double digits now.
Yeah, the viewers are increasing, the more, share our channel, share the channel, share the show, let people know about it, we have fun on the show, and we really appreciate, these legends taking the time and coming on the show, so
Absolutely.
until next time, that's it for now,
All
and
right. This is Eric out from Vegas and Kevin out from Malta.
yeah, see you later.
All
Bye.
right. Take care, guys. Thanks
Bye.
for watching.